from 2004 on, I was really involved with the anarchism that was being developed in Rio de Janeiro. Yeah, there it was going on a really interesting project that started in 2002 and was the result of the anarchists reorganizing in Rio de Janeiro after this period that goes from the 30s to the 80s. So in the 80s there was an old anarchist called Ideal Pérez, and Ideal Pérez with other militants started from the end of the 70s to group some interested students to discuss anarchist stuff, and in the 80s they founded the Círculos de Estudos Libertários, that is the CEL, the first group after the dictatorship in Rio de Janeiro. So this CEL group started to making anarchist talks and grouping people and researching and reading books and stuff like that. And this was a really important period of rebirth of the anarchism in Rio. So this cell functioned since 1985 up to 1995 when Ideal Pérez died, and then after that the cell changed the name for CELIP, that it's Círculo de Estudos Libertários, the same old name, Ideal Pérez. It was homage to this old comrade, and so CELIP functioned from 95, and in the beginning of the 2000 they started a process to discuss, they start identifying, they start thinking on build an anarchist organization. So in 2002 people started discussing what kind of anarchist organization do we have. So they studied all this process, and there was the founding of an anarchist library called Biblioteca Social Fábio Luz Social Library in 2001, and in this space generated by the library, this process that started in 2002 ended in 2003 in the founding of the Anarchist Federation of Rio de Janeiro. Okay, the organization was founded in 2003. And then, in fact, Farge chose a model of organization called Specificismo, that after we can talk on that, but it was really influenced by the Anarchist Federation of Uruguay. And then, in 2004, in fact, I got in touch with them in 2003 in an anarchist symposium that they did there. And since the beginning of 2004, I got involved, and I started really to admire this kind of work that they were doing there. I was in São Paulo, and I was part of an anarchist collective called Coletivo Anarquista Terra Livre, that is a freelance anarchist collective. And we was in touch with the Anarchist Federation in Rio. So I was part of this group in São Paulo. This group in São Paulo started to organize like anarchist events, publishing books, and promoting public discussions. And we started publishing a magazine called Protesta. So we was working here in São Paulo, and we discussed a lot on the model of organization, what would be the role of anarchists, how should we get involved with stuff, if it would be interesting to work with social movements or no. And in fact, there was lots of polemics or divergences inside this group here in São Paulo. And I started going to Rio and really to admire the movement that they were building there. I remember once when I went to Rio and I arrived there, and there was a really huge assembly of the homeless, and it was being promoted and it was being stimulated, coordinated and everything by the anarchists of Rio. And so that really marked me when I saw that, and I say, that's why anarchism exists, you know, to promote this kind of stuff, not to be closed and you stay discussing the whole day so on principles, you just work on university, on things like that. When I saw that, it really touched me. I saw that and I said, that's why anarchism should exist, to organize people and to promote this kind of mobilization, this kind of social movement. So I got involved with the Anarchist Federation, and we had a big discussion there, and that was really important for me. After I broke with the group here in São Paulo, and I went completely to this group, this organization in Rio, and we discussed a lot our organization issues. I was involved in the training secretary of the organization, so we discussed a lot these organization issues, and so we developed too much interesting stuffs on anarchist organization during that period, and FARJ was really important to me, for me to comprehend better anarchism, and for me to formulate theoretically, and for me to understand the whole of anarchist organization. So this practical stuff of the Anarchist Federation was really important for me. And then in the beginning of 2007, we started a process here in São Paulo to build something like the FARJ organization. So we start talking that maybe we could build an organization like FARJ in Rio. And São Paulo had a past of an anarchist organization as the same model, but this organization was not existing or even functioning. So we decided to start the discussion again, and then we prepared like 2 years of a huge process of conversation. We made 2 bigger encounters, so to discuss this anarchist organization model, to explain people, to know what people was talking about. So after this almost 2 years of building process, we could found our organization. It was 1 year ago, so we could found in this place the Anarchist Federation of São Paulo. We chose a date that it's the 18th of November. That is a really important date in Brazil because that's the date in the year of 1918 that anarchists organized an insurrection in Rio de Janeiro. So that was they were trying to build the first Soviet here in Brazil. So this was a really huge process of mobilization and everything. So we chose this date, and since then I'm being part of the FARJ and also of the Anarchist Federation of São Paulo. Now I'm more involved with the Anarchist Federation here in São Paulo, but I'm also a member of the Rio Federation. I go there sometimes, but I continue to be a militant, but in fact nowadays my priority is the federation here in São Paulo, because we have lots of work to do.